The future of work isn't about shareholder value, technology, metrics, or automation. It's about being human and putting people first through actionable love. Welcome to the Love in Action podcast, where we hold deep conversations with extraordinary people to help you grow as a leader and expand your business. Here's your host, Marcel Schwantes.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Love in Action podcast, this show where we explore the intersection of business leadership and practical love and care. Glad you could join us today. Hey, I'm bringing back my co-host, Rob Holman. Say hi to Rob.
Hey, Marcel, I'm back. No, it's great to be with you. Looking forward to having a bit of a conversation around things that really matter.
And things that are going to help our listeners to grow as leaders. And I got one for you.
Please, I'd love to hear it. Come on, you got me on the edge of my seat now.
This is counterintuitive for many, okay? And, it's something that I teach and coach on. So over the years, I have witnessed more companies kind of racking their brains, trying to figure out how to best engage their employees, to perform at a high level. So I want to bring to light a strategy in the best companies with great cultures, okay? And this is what they do. They have a culture of shared leadership. Now, right there, I've probably already turned off maybe, lots of listeners, okay? But the reason I believe so many managers fail is often attributed to the idea that if they share their leadership with others, they're going to lose their power. They'll lose their authority. And in this rare practice of sharing leadership, Rob, is the way that good leaders go about developing a strong culture of trust. I mean, and yet it's still totally counterintuitive for a lot of people, because this idea to share leadership a lot of times has roots in fear of failure, that if I release the control, if I give away my power, I'm going to fail. I'm going to be perceived as a weak leader. Thoughts?
Thank you, number one, for bringing up such an important topic, timely topic. Leaders, I'm going to speak directly to you.
Yeah.
It's time to get over yourself. Now, I say that, bathed in encouragement. But at the end of the day, what is leadership? We have an opportunity not to be the dominant voice. We have the opportunity not to necessarily be the one who's always in the limelight. We have an opportunity not always to be the smartest person in the room. We have an opportunity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have an opportunity ultimately to come alongside, dare I say, get under our team members. One team member at a time. And there's times collectively where we have an opportunity to do so, to actually lift them up and elevate them above who we are and what we do. I say that, Marcel, to say, what would it look like if we redefine leadership a little bit? Maybe the old school of, I got to be the person, I got to be in the limelight, I've got to take the bull by the horns and lead and guide and, into, which I know you are a huge proponent of and a pioneer in this space, which is called servant leadership. And when I think of servant leadership, I think of, instead of control and trying to get people into what you think they should do, why you should do it, et cetera, it's more of getting to know them to such a degree of what makes them tick and what makes them come alive, that they in fact do have a voice that needs to be heard. And when we begin to come alongside or even get under them only to lift them up, we become as leaders more facilitators of a conversation than we do, here's the vision, here's where we're going, and who's on board. Do you agree with that, or what's further insight you have based on that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And so I mentioned that to share leadership, the idea is to release your control and kind of share your power, and that is very scary for a lot of people in leadership roles, right? But it's scary if your orientation has been a kind of a top-down command and control type of person who has to have all the power, who has to have all the control. And what's happening is that in those micromanaged spaces, people's performance is always low. because they're always looking for you to tell them, hey, boss, what do I do now? And hey, boss, what's the next task? Or they're always looking for the next order, right? So they're really worker bees. That's not empowering at all, Rob. No. It doesn't. I'm going to go back to our last episode where we talked about belief, and these leaders don't have the belief to think that their employees are worthy and have the strengths and abilities to go above and beyond. So I don't know. I'm tracking with you for sure, but I got to go back to this hump that so many of us hang on to, the power and the control, and we have to learn to release that, to believe in our people and release that control.
Could I offer one practical thing that I have found that helps? And that is because it is difficult. Let's be real. It's difficult for people that are more type A, and even with a wonderful heart, sometimes we, not even consciously, but subconsciously, we control what we think we need to or want to control because it makes us feel better, only to find out by results that we're not in as much control as we think we are. Ourselves. One practical thing that I do and I encourage leaders with is just look at your team, as small or as large as it may be. You may have a core team that has 2 or 3 people, or you might have a core team that has 10 to 12 people. And just spend time in reflection, looking at the strengths of each team member. What would it look like if you intentionally let them lead their specific area based on their gifts and their strengths and their personalities, and you serve them? You look to them based on their top strength or strengths. And man, if you look at that team, as small or as large as it may be, and you reflect upon, I can't help but think leaders would be greatly encouraged. Many leaders, not all, but many leaders would be greatly encouraged with the team they actually have in place based on the skill set, gifts, and abilities that they have as well. Absolutely. And when we spend time thinking about it, reflecting on it, finding ways to intentionally serve that person, not just serve them in that place, but perhaps submit to them in that place. Yeah. And, service and submission are 2 different things. I think when we realize that a team member has a gift that we may not have as the senior leader, what does it look like not only to serve them with them utilizing those gifts and leading the way, but submitting to them? I have a lot to learn, that I'm putting on my student hat and I want you to lead the way. How can I serve you? But I submit to you based on your area of expertise, based on your personality, based on all these different things. That's why I hired you. That's why I put you in place. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, but if we can spend intentional time reflecting, appreciating, valuing, and then speaking into that team member and the team as a whole based on their strengths, something you preach a lot, Marcel, I think it's at least going to better position us of a willingness to let go of control a bit more.
Wow. Yeah, that's so good, Rob. And I have an example that I want to share with you of a previous boss who was very much in that role of sharing leadership. So Bruce, if you're listening, he was one of my favorite bosses. In fact, Bruce was the one that introduced me to the idea of servant leadership, right? So Bruce was one of those bosses that let his people take turns leading, including me. It was a small team. But, that only worked because Bruce built us up. He raised our competence as well as our confidence to be able to perform at a high level. But he put us in roles that really stretched us, right? But he was always there, walking alongside us and mentoring us to make sure that we had what we needed to succeed. I mean, sometimes it was scary, man, because he was like, no, you're going to do this today. And I remember it was a board chair position. I had never chaired that role before. And he goes, yeah, I want you to step into this role, but I'm going to be there every step of the way. And boy, I needed him to be by my side, because there were times when I really didn't know what the next step was. But that was Bruce's initiative to share his leadership, because that board chair position was his role previous, and he passed that on to me, right? To build me up and to grow me. And it helped me to feel like an equal, to all of a sudden be given these decision-making privileges, right? And I mean, Bruce was approachable, and he would ask me coaching questions like, hey, Marcel, what would you like to do in this situation, right? So he's giving me ownership but he's coaching me in the process, because he wanted to understand my thought process around a decision, right? And to kind of expand my understanding of it. So, the question is to this day is such a good one. What would you like to do in this situation? Because then I would say, well, Bruce, this is the direction I feel that we should go. Mm-hmm. And then he would tell me, okay, he would confirm that was the right path. Or he might say, yeah, that's a good input, Marcel, but I think we need to go in this direction. And then we would kind of have a discussion, an open discussion, right? And I'll tell you, Rob, that increased my learning and my development like no other time in my early corporate career. I mean, that's going back 15, 20 years ago. So by all accounts, I was still very much accountable to him. Bruce was still the boss. Sure. But I remember how much more satisfied and engaged I was than in any previous job up to that point.
Well, Bruce, something you stated just a few moments ago, was he made you feel like an equal.
Yeah.
Regardless of title or position. See, Bruce probably knew something about you, Marcel, and I'm just going to speculate for a moment. He knew that you had a lot to offer. So did he have a lot to share or to coach you in? Of course. But he had a lot to learn from you as well. And as leaders, can you imagine if we enter into every one-to-one meeting, every group or team meeting, not as much of what we can offer as far as content or direction or guidance, how about what we can learn? Mm. And now what that begins to do is it puts everyone on even playing field, regardless of the title, regardless of the responsibility. And it truly is a shared experience together, where gifts will rise and in function based on who people are and what they've been given, not as much on title. And you begin to be a bit as a leader, as the senior leader, for instance, C-suite exec, as a conductor of sorts, as a facilitator of a conversation. You're still a facilitator. You're still there to offer your 2 cents, if not more. But at the same time, if not more, you're helping raise others in the process.
That is so good.
Thanks for highlighting that.
Thanks for that beautiful insight, Rob. All right, let's move on, Rob. It's time for
Mailbag.
Yes, this is the segment where we take your questions. And I got one, and this is sent in from Samantha from El Paso, Texas. And Samantha writes, "Hey guys, I'm about to get promoted to manager. I've been an individual contributor for the last 5 years. Now I find myself having to manage the people I used to work with, my peers and former coworkers. Any advice?" Oh, that's a good one.
Isn't it good, Samantha? I want to share a very brief story that might bring you great encouragement. I was about ready to embark in my first professional basketball tryout. Yes, professional basketball career that lasted 7 years. This was my first training camp, first professional workout that I ever had. The evening before it took place. And I get a call from my sister to say, hey, big brother. She's my younger. Hey, big brother, are you excited? I said, of course I am. Her name's Laurie. I said, of course I am, Laurie. She said, aren't you like overly nervous and fearful about what stands before you? And these words came right from the depth of my heart and out of my mouth to my sister. What is there to worry about? I've been preparing for this moment and this day my entire life. Samantha, it rings true for you. Sometimes we can enter into new moments, new times, a bit with hesitancy or reluctancy or even some anxiety or stress. Maybe I'll leave some of the practicals up to Marcel in this conversation, but I do want to encourage you foundationally. You've been preparing to step into this moment with this new position for your entire life. Enter into it with ease, with confidence, ready and willing to serve those around you and those within your sphere of influence, and you'll be just fine. But Marcel, what else do you have to add to it? Because, my professional basketball experience, I can only offer so much.
Well, Samantha, I would venture to guess, and I think I would be right, to say that, Samantha, you were put into that role because your superior saw something in you enough to want to promote you into a management role. Now, having said that, and this is now Samantha and me talking to Rob and the larger audience, not everyone that is an individual contributor is equipped to be a leader. And sometimes so many individual contributors put into leadership roles fail because they don't understand what true leadership means or is and how it's acted out. So Samantha, as you are now in the prestigious role of a leader, congratulations. Yeah, it's kind of weird, right? I mean, these are your peers, your coworkers that you probably went to happy hour with, previous. They need to understand. So it's a two-way street here, okay? They need to understand that they need to shift their understanding of you now being in another role. So that doesn't mean that you forsake the friendships. You can still hang out with them and do happy hour just like any boss would with their team members, right? But it's the understanding that the dynamics in the workplace now has changed. Okay. That has to be an expectation that has to be set the day you walk in to your new role as a manager. All right. And so from your standpoint, now that you're in a manager role, yes, there are some new expectations for you to set for yourself. But this is going to be really influential over those people that were your previous, coworkers and peers. Is if you want to have really good influence over them now as a manager, because they're going to be watching your every move now. They're going to want to know, can she do the job? Right? Is to step into the role of looking after the people that now are under you and setting them up for success, right? So now it's a totally different dynamic. So you want to get together with them on a team level, set the new expectations. Hey guys, yeah, this might look strange to some of you, but I'm going to do my best to set you up for success as your manager, right? Take care of them from a leadership standpoint, but set expectations for performance, set expectations for accountability, and set expectations for excellence, because now they have to prove their worth to you as individual contributors, that under your leadership, they are going to be good followers as well and perform at a high level.
Love that, Marcel. Let that rest, because I think that was complete gold. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Anyway, if you want to send in our questions, Rob and I would love to take them on the air and go over them. And you can do that on my website, marcelschwantes.com. Click on the Love in Action podcast, and any of the most previous episode, you will find a link to send in your questions for the mailbag segment. He is, as always, Rob Holman, and I so appreciate you being my co-host. How can people get a hold of you, Rob? Where can they go?
Well, number one, I thoroughly enjoyed this, as I always do, Marcel. You and I are good friends, but certainly as we come together, we just bring so much alignment to the things and the people that matter most in our lives and leadership. And so this has been a complete joy and honor. People can go to my website, which is robholman.com.
I will be right back with my leadership insights to help you grow as a leader, and I will do that after a quick break. Hey, it's Marcel. Imagine how awesome it would be if this year, 2023, your employees were more engaged and into their work. They made better decisions, collaborated without any of those people issues, and just performed at a high level to produce great work. As leaders, we know that these attributes eliminate countless headaches and help scale the business, but quite shockingly, we often see the exact opposite behaviors take place in our teams. So we developed a hybrid leadership course to help emerging leaders bring out the best in their people. So together with your management team, we're going to help you identify the leadership skills that will result in high performance in yourself and in your employees. We're going to identify what it takes to inspire, motivate, and engage human beings to do their best work. We're going to teach you the leadership habits that will attract A players to come work for your organization. You're going to learn how to overcome the number one obstacle to clear communication. And you'll discover your personality strengths and blind spots and how to overcome those blind spots to help improve your work relationships. If you want to learn more about this unique leadership course, visit my website, marcelschwantes.com, and click on training. Okay, so I'm continuing my series on giving you a sneak peek look at my first book, which is in development right now. I'm writing the manuscript for it. And so as I write the chapters of what will become a really useful leadership guide for your development, whatever role you're in, right up to the C-suite, I'm going to give you some really good practical tools and strategies to help you grow as a leader. That's the whole point of the book. But I want to also give you the premise of this book, the big idea behind it. So let me set it up like this. The word love is rarely used in the workplace because it's off-putting. It's too squishy for the business world, right? Or is it? Well, consider this. We might love our work, and we might love the people that we work with. And, for those customer-facing people, we might love the customers that we work with. But we rarely think of love as a business or even management strategy. Well, that's just crazy talk, Marcel. Well, why is that? Because, the business world has wrongly assumed love to be an emotion rather than a behavior or an action that actually leads to results in good outcomes. But counter to today's command and control environments that, by my view, have been prevalent since the first industrial revolution, when you really start to look back at how far we've been in this rodeo, when I inspect what the most profitable and the best high-performing company cultures are doing, when we look at their leaders and the leadership culture of these places, what we see is love in action. Bear with me here. They're not calling it that, of course. I mean, the world is not ready for it, not yet. So my book is hopefully going to blow the lid right off and bring love as a business value and strategy into the business lexicon, okay? Because we have to call it for what it is. And frankly, the world right now is starving for it. We need love being demonstrated within the leadership ranks, from the executive C-suite level right down to the floor manager, working side by side with employees. We need that now more than ever. So love is the most powerful force on the planet. I think you'll agree with me on that. And this force is what we're seeing now in this post-COVID era that is powering teams and cultures and entire organizations to thrive and outperform the competition. And we have the data to prove it. Now, it might be counterintuitive still for a lot of you, but I'm going to give my readers a rare inside look into actionable love. Again, the verb, not the emotion, as the strategy used by the most successful leaders on the planet of the most profitable companies in the world. So the book is going to uncover the best available data that's out there. I'm going to throw case studies and the evidence and best-in-class leadership behaviors and practices that demonstrate that love is really the future of work. Okay, so this whole idea, why I'm doing this, is to help people to understand that when you choose to lead with practical and actionable love, you're going to have a clear competitive advantage. Now, there are 7 practical principles of love in action that I'm going to be writing about. And last time we covered kindness. Today, I want to talk to you about chapter 5 of my manuscript. And that chapter tackles the topic of leadership humility. So we're all attracted to leaders who display confidence, right? Maybe even charisma. They stand out. And that's sort of, we're attracted to that kind of leader. But you know what? Take one wrong step and now you'll find arrogance. And we have plenty of leaders that are displaying arrogance right now for all the wrong reasons. Now, humility first struck me in the context of leadership in business when Jim Collins mentioned it in his seminal book, Good to Great. Collins basically said that the best leaders direct their ego away from themselves to the larger goal of leading and serving their company towards greatness. And so these leaders, as Collins determined in his research, gain an edge through displaying both fierce professional will and extreme personal humility. Think about that paradox. And so this paradoxical mix, Collins found, creates superb financial results. And clearly these Fortune 500 leaders, they don't walk inside boardrooms, having a low opinion of themselves. Of course not. Or thinking of themselves as meek, another bad definition for humility, right? And as Rick Warren wrote in his Purpose-Driven Life book, he said, humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. So in essence, humble leaders achieve greatness without arrogance, right? They shift they shift from ego to humility, which can drastically alter the outcome to your advantage when you operate this way. So in my book, I'm going to give you readers some examples of how humble and these crazy successful leaders communicate, how they engage their employees, and really how they just do business. So I want to give you a sneak preview of 3 ways they go about doing that. Number 1, humble leaders give others credit. They give people credit. So you're going to find humble leaders deflecting the limelight away from themselves, and they allow their teams or subordinates to be in the limelight. And when you do that, these leaders, they gain respect at an alarming rate. There's something very liberating for employees as well when they receive the credit. So when leaders give away that kind of credit, it's so empowering. Number 2, humble leaders speak their truth. So humble leaders don't say things to sugarcoat. They don't say things to try to please others or to try to look good in front of their peers. They don't betray themselves or other people by using words or making decisions that are not aligned with who they are at the core of their being, aligned with their values and their beliefs. So, and that's why they have such great reputations. So when they make a promise, they do everything possible to fulfill it. That's one example, right? So the actions always fit the words. And well, hey, here's something else that these humble leaders do when they speak their truth. Ready for this? Humble leaders admit mistakes. Yeah, I probably just tuned out lots of you, okay? So you want some quick coaching advice on this about admitting mistakes as a leader? Here are 3 magical words that will produce more peace of mind for you than a week's worth of executive coaching with me. 3 words. I was wrong. Here are 4 more. You are so right. Okay, I'm going to wrap up today's episode with my 3rd and final tip for expressing more humility. These things are going to come out in my book, okay? Humble leaders, they are teachable. They're teachable. So they gladly accept the role of learner because they know it's going to make them better, so they don't distance themselves from their team members, their peers and coworkers by making them having to learn something without them having to learn it themselves. So they are teachable. And they also know that each person, regardless of their position in hierarchy, has something important to teach them, because the truth is good leaders don't always know what is needed and what to do at all times. So the humble leader asks questions, and they are sincerely interested in the answers. And, these days, this is even more important if you're coming into a position where you're a new manager. Perhaps you got promoted from being an individual contributor to now you're in this thrust into this leadership role, right? So, and then you acquire all of these long tenured employees who may know more than you do about the work or how to handle customers. So in that situation, it starts with you being honest enough to say, hey, help me so I can help you. Okay, I'm going to stop right here. So that is my quick soundbite from chapter 5 of my manuscript. I'm hoping to release this in 10 months to a year's time from now. And I'll have more from my manuscript in future mini episodes where you'll hear it right here for the first time. Principles of leadership, love in action. Hey, you can continue the conversation on social media. I hope you do with hashtag Love in Action Podcast. I'm Marcel Schwantes, and my mission is to spread more actionable love and care in the workplace. The future of leadership is love in action. To learn more about bringing me to speak at your events or help your leaders create a servant leadership culture of high performance, please visit my website, marcelschwantes.com.
Thank you for listening to the Love in Action podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it, subscribe, and leave us a review. Until next time, don't forget, the future of leadership is love in action. Believe it, practice it, and watch your business grow.